All right, day 4 of notes, writing equations of conic sections. So we're going to have circles, ellipses, and hyperbolas today. And again, there's no new information. It's just instead of from an equation, let's see, last week, we gave you the equation and you came up with all the information, all the characteristics, all the graphs, whatever. We started with the equation. Today, we're going to start out with info, and you're going to come up with the equation. So it's the same stuff, just in reverse. Number 1, write an equation for a circle. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equal r squared. The radius 16 and a center -3, -6. So x plus 3 and y plus 6. What goes on the other side? — 16 squared is the right answer, whatever that is. 256. I think it's without. Because the calculators, some of them have the conic sections app on them when you can just type in all this stuff. And it makes the test ridiculous because it does it all for you.
Now which app is that?
Do you have to have them memorized? I would say you don't have to have them memorized, because if you see circle, then you go find another problem on the test that looks like that, and you're like, oh yeah, that's what a circle looks like. So you have to have them memorized well enough to sort of recognize them, but I don't know that you have to have them memorized cold, because you can, use other parts of the test to help you with this part of the test.
You couldn't have told me that.
Well, that's why you don't have a calculator. Number 2, write an equation for an ellipse with the center horizontal major length axis, vertical minor length. Oh, goodness. So let's start with what an ellipse looks like. An ellipse, the x is always first. Ellipse means it's got the plus sign in it, and the x is always first. There's tons of partial credit to be had here, right? Like, even if you made it just that far, I'd be like, all right, that's 1 point out of 5. Like, you know it's an ellipse. But you'd probably at least get x plus 5 and y minus 7. There's our center. And then let's read this carefully here. So a horizontal, left and right, length is 12. So do I need 12 squared? I need 6 squared.
Half is square if you put it on it.
So 36, is that going under the x or under the y? Under the x. Like, if you draw it, hopefully it becomes a little easier. It's like, well, it's under x. Vertical, so up and down, minor, shorter axis of length 6. So that length is 6, which means b is 3, so 9, under the y, because you're going up and down 3. Up and down is the y value. Right, if you know the stuff well, it's not a hard day, because you're using all the same information. It's just, you've got to be careful because you're using it differently. Number 3, write an equation for an ellipse. I know what an ellipse looks like. All right, gentlemen, look at number 3 with me. This one's a little different. Equation for an ellipse with a vertical major axis of length 10, vertical So up and down. Major axis of length 10.
It's 25 on the left.
So 5 and 5. So what do I do with 25? Where does 25 go?
It should go under the Y.
Should go under the Y.
Is it okay if we wrote the major on the left, so the Y on the left?
Yes.
Or is that, should that not be?
It would still be accurate.
Should I write it on the right?
It would be okay. All right. Foci. What do I learn when it tells me that that these are the foci? Not really the box thing. What's this tell me? That's C. So C squared is 21. Okay. I guess that's helpful.
Wait, if you just do the 21 minus 5.
How do I'm trying to think backwards here. Where did C squared come from?
Then it'd be negative 4.
C squared equals A squared.
A squared something B squared. Well, if this symbol is a plus,
It can still be minus.
then this one is a minus.
Wait.
So 21 equals, A is the longer one. So 25 minus B squared.
Is it B squared because we're working backwards? I mean negative because we're working backwards.
No, it's negative because for an ellipse, C squared equals A squared minus B squared. For an ellipse. So B squared is 4. I still need the center. Where's the center?
X is going to be minus 2.
Yeah, it's right in between the foci. So the center is 2, negative 2. X minus 2, Y plus 2. That was a tricky one. They hid the center on us there. Number 4. Write an equation for a hyperbola with vertices at... Alright, I'm going to back up here for a second. I know what a hyperbola looks like. Right? There's 1 point of a partial credit test. That's what a hyperbola looks like. How do I know if X or Y goes first for a hyperbola?
Which one stays this?
Okay, which one's positive and negative? But I want the positive one to go first. How do I know which one's
So
positive?
it would be for this one, the Y.
The vertices are changing in the Y, so if you need to draw a sketch of it, 4, negative 3, and 4, negative 11, those are my vertices. So that tells me who's first. The Y is first. Oh, it also tells me the middle point is the center. If I can figure out the middle point between negative 3 and 11, halfway between negative 3 and 11, 7, or negative 7. And so my center's at 4, negative 7. So Y plus 7 and X minus 4. Alright, that distance is 4 from the center to the vertex. I got foci. We'll do that in a minute. But what do I do with that? What do I do with that 4?
If you use the,
Yes, I will use c squared in a minute, but what can I do with that 4? That's how far it is from the center to the vertex. Square it and put it where?
16 on the y.
16 under the y. And then I've got foci. C equals 4 square root of 3, which means c squared is, square both of those, 16 times 3. So 48. But what is c squared for a hyperbola? What's the equation for c squared?
C squared plus B. There's
A squared plus b squared equals c squared. 16, is that A or B? It's A, although it actually doesn't matter because you're adding, but it is A. So 16 plus b squared equals 48. So b squared equals 32. And 32 is what is, b squared is what goes underneath. So I don't need to square root it. I mean, I could, but then I would just have to square it back again. So b squared is 32. There's my equation.
How do we know if it's A or B?
For a hyperbola, A is always first.
What about the ellipse like last time?
For the ellipse, A is always bigger. Let me phrase it this way. A always controls what direction it is. So for an ellipse, what's most important is the longest. So A is the longest. For a hyperbola, what's most important is who's first. So A is first. So A is more important than B. Remember it that way. Apologies to B, but A is more important than B. Question over there? Yes.
How did you find the center? Like I know you get the x from then how did you know it was 16?
So I knew the center because the center's got to be halfway between the vertices. The other way to find the center is because they wrote the foci so nicely. If I just cover up the plus or minus, there's my center, 4, -7. Probably would have been easier to do it that way. But it gave me more information than I needed. Yes?
Where's the 16 from?
The 16 comes from the y distance from the center to the vertex was 4. So that means that A was 4, so A squared is 16. Crystal?
Did you know that y was first because it was the one that was changing in the vertices?
Yeah, a couple ways to think of that. The y was changing in the vertices and the foci for that matter. And so if y is changing, that means you've got to have an up and down orientation. That was good. Several of you noticed that. I did a sketch of those, and when I drew the picture of those two vertices, well, then it became pretty obvious that it was up and down. So, like 3 reasons it's up and down. The y changed for the vertices, the y changed for the foci, and the picture itself lets you know. Number 5. An ellipse has a major axis length of 10. Okay, but I don't know if that's up and down or left and right yet. Foci are 3/8 and -5/8. Yeah, when in doubt, draw a picture, I think. 3/8, 8, -5/8 are the foci. Okay, so the center is halfway in between there at -1/8. Although it didn't ask me for that, so I don't know that I absolutely had to find that. Major axis of length 10. Which way is the major axis going on this one?
Left and right.
Left and right. How'd you know that?
Because it's an ellipse, and ellipse, the bigger number goes first.
Yeah, so the two foci tell me that this has a left and right orientation. Again, it doesn't ask me for the equation, but I think that's going to be the easiest way to answer this question. So there's a vertex over there. So what number is going under x squared if the major axis is 10? This is 2 steps to get there. The length of the major axis is 10. So A is 5, and that means 25 is under the x stuff. That's A squared, B squared. A squared minus B squared equals C squared. I know 25. I don't know B. Do I know C? C is, oh, careful. C is not the distance from focus to vertex. C is the distance from center to focus. So how far is it from center to focus?
5.
No, it's 5 from center to vertex. That center to focus is 4. Driving backwards is hard. So C squared is 16 because C was 4. And so B squared then is, move things around, 25 minus 16 is 9. B is 3. Have we finished this problem yet? No, because the length of the minor axis. So that would be that length. Where'd you get 6 from?
From the y minus 3. Couldn't you have just figured out the equation and not had to do it?
Could I've gotten 6 without getting the full equation? Maybe. But, maybe. Better leave it at that. I think so, because I've got A and B and C. So, maybe. But it was sure easier to write the equation, I think. Because we went up and down 3. B is 3. So if we went up and down 3, then the length of that axis is 6. And there's the picture if we wanted it. Number 6. These are easy if we get the hang of what's going on here. So just write C, E, or H. Ty. Okay. Yes. Let's back up. You're okay with A squared minus B squared equals C squared, because an ellipse is A squared minus B squared. We knew A was 25 because it told us the major axis was 10, so half of that's 5. 5 squared is 25. The tricky part was finding C. C is the distance from center to focus. So with the two foci, we could find the center. And between the center and the foci, we could find C. How far is it from the center to the focus was 4. So C squared is 16. And now we have smoke rising up on the window here. Did that answer your question? Sorry. c squared 16. Now we can use this to solve for b squared. Easy for me to say. Number 6. Part A. 4x squared minus 4y squared. Well, I don't want to do the full problem on these. Like, I could separate, complete the square. Can you tell what's going to happen if the x squared's positive and the y squared's negative?
Yeah.
It's the only one where the signs are different is the hyperbola. So I don't want to work that whole thing. That's going to be a hyperbola. All right, for b, x squared plus y squared, so not hyperbola, because it's plus.
Sorry.
So is it a circle or is it an ellipse?
Sure.
Why? How do you know it's a circle?
Because they're the same sign and the same number.
Because they're the same sign and the same number. So, like, even if we think it's an ellipse, their denominators of those two pieces would be the same. So you'd be going left and right 3 and up and down 3, or whatever the number is. So that's a circle.
So if A was, instead of that minus at the beginning, it was a plus, it would be a circle as well.
Yep. How about C?
C is ellipse.
C is an ellipse because it's plus and the numbers are different.
So anyone that's subtracting is hyperbola.
Anyone that's subtracting is a hyperbola. All right, I'm going to pause. You try the next 4 and then we'll check. Question on any of those? Let's try number 7. We'll go quickly here. Equation for a hyperbola. So right away, I'm thinking, I know it's going to look like this, right? That's a hyperbola. Oops, squared one first. Is this up and down or left and right?
Wait a second.
Left and right.
I think it's left and right. I'm going to draw the picture because to me that helps. 4, -7. And -4, -7. Those are the vertices. So yes, left and right. And the center, right in between there, at 0, -7. So hyperbola, look at that. So the x is first, x minus 0, y plus 7. Obviously you don't have to put x minus 0 in there, but that's sort of how I set it up. So that would be the same as just x squared, if you'd rather. So distance from center to vertex is 4. What do I do with that? Square it and put it under the x. And then the y is a little less clear because I've got stuff about foci. So c is the square root of 97. Yeah, you're on the right track here. So c squared is 97. And then I'm going to write it out, make sure I don't get this messed up. It's a squared plus b squared for the hyperbola. A squared is 16. C squared is 97. So yes, you were right. B squared is 81. So what goes under y? 9 or 3 or 81 or 81 squared? 81.
You just square root it and you re-square it.
Right. So if you're really paying attention, you can just put the 81 over there. If you're kind of just working the problem along, a lot of times people write b equals 9 and then square it again and stick it under there, and that's fine. Olivia?
How do you know that A and not B?
Because I know this is a left and right hyperbola. So whatever we go left and right has to be under the x. not really thinking A and B. I'm thinking left and right goes under the X. All right, so these are puzzle problems, backwards problems. So the assignment today is whatever worksheet's next, worksheet 4.
Our test is this Thursday.
Oh, there's a fix on the review. So that's the one I need to remember to fix. Test is Thursday, yes.
Was that 11?
On the review?
Yeah.
No, number 15 is not right on the review.